Good morning, everyone. This is Lady She from How Michael Lady She podcast. So I'm excited on today for my beautiful guest. She's touched the hot mic before with no fear, honey. I mean, boldness to the highest power, okay? Like, she did not come to play. Her and her amazing husband, Mr. King. They had their own practice. They are licensed counselors in the state of Texas. You know, I'm learning more and more about Texas, so I'm absolutely excited to hear what she has to say, on certain subjects connected to, the difference in laws and stuff with the states. So welcome, presenting to some and introducing to others, Ms. ShanTrail King of Ear to Ear Counseling. Hi.
Hey, everyone. How are you all doing? Thank you so much, Lady She, for having me on. I cannot wait to dive into the topic, the subject, because it's near and dear to my heart on today.
The topic for today's dialogue will be getting started in counseling. And thank you so much, because this subject is so vital right now with the atmosphere we're living in. The temperature is kind of topsy-turvy. People walk on their eggshells. Others are walking in their boldness. So you don't know where you fit in that. You're kind of in like the gray area sometimes. So, and I feel, having counseling is so vital in this temperature. Do you agree?
Yes, I definitely agree. And something that I find to be interesting in our day and time in 2023 is that I often use this example. Those who are my age, and I'm 45 years old, we heard growing up that, I don't do counseling. Counseling's for crazy people, different things like that. However, our children's age, they have no problem going to get help. If something's not right, they have no problem. So I definitely agree that counseling is very important.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, because I definitely want to tap into, how do I explain, like the gap between the generations and what they thought about counseling and what we think about counseling. Because no, you're absolutely right. I feel like, the children now are either really, really into it or just not. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I don't even think that's from, well, I guess I can't say society as well, because I don't think my kids would be talking about therapy if I wasn't talking about it. Amen. So it is something connected to, it's environmental, what your children are exposed to, the conversations, their peers, school, there's a lot going on. So, I'm excited for those kids in this generation who really understand, no, I'm having issues with my anger. I'm not responding the right way when it comes to my relationships, when I think I'm in love, because we all thought we was in love in high school. So I need somebody to tell me, where I need to chill out or where I'm doing the right thing. So I think that's great.
Yes, it definitely is. And that's the thing that I find myself encouraging people, whether it's just family and friends and having that conversation, is give yourself permission to get help. Give yourself permission to get help. And the reality of it is that we all go through things.
Right.
We all have things in our life. And just think about it. We all just went through and still kind of is in a pandemic.
Yes. The
last pandemic was what, over 100-something years ago? So not even anyone that we remember in our family that's alive went through that pandemic. It's very few. So with that being said, it's okay to say, I need help. Something's not right. Just like and I say this so often, I make this comparison, that tooth gets aching. Oh, you're going to find a dentist. Let that back go out. You're running to the emergency room if your back go out, if you're having chest pains. So why not be more conscious about your mental health and your emotional health as you do your physical health?
I love that. Listen, she basically said, keep that same energy when it comes to that toothache.
Right.
Keep that same energy. No, that was a good analogy to use. So tapping into getting started with counseling, how do you do it? I know, okay, let's use, the church, for example. They say, come as you are. People always say stuff like, I'm not ready yet. When I get myself together, we're basically talking ourselves out of doing it. And I feel like it's kind of the same thing with counseling. So how do you get started with it?
First, I would definitely say your mindset. Go to counseling because that's something that you desire to do. There is so often times that individuals, especially if you're married or in a relationship, it's almost like an ultimatum type thing. Go because you desire to go to counseling, starting with your mind. Go because you desire to be a better version of yourself. And then when you think about counseling, because this is a myth when it comes to counseling, a lot of individuals think, okay, I'm going to start counseling and my counselor is going to fix me.
Ooh.
No,
touch that.
Right. We do not do that as licensed professionals. We do not fix you. You have to have a desire for change. You may not know how to go about that change, but what we do as licensed professionals is we walk alongside of you while you are on your mental health journey. I generally say to my clients that as you desire to be a better version of yourself, I walk alongside of you. So that would be the first step, is to get your mind right, if you will, about counseling. And don't think about these myths that, oh, my therapist, I'm paying you this much, or my insurance is paying you, you're going to fix me. That is not true. So please don't go into counseling with that mindset.
Yes, thank you for saying that. Because I feel that was significant, because a lot of times when I talk to people who, and let's be real, no one wants to be told you need counseling. And then no one wants to be told you're wrong, seek counseling, or you need help, go get counseling. It's always the tone and how you say things. You know what I'm saying? So some people that I've encountered, I'm like, okay, you're kind of unraveling, like you need to speak to someone, because what's happening is not working. You're trying to handle it in your own strength, or you're trying to handle it in your own intellect. And this is why they're professionals. They went to school to see these signs. They went to school to understand, what you're going through from afar. So you need counseling. But one of the things I've come to realize is some of the people who have tried counseling, they haven't tried it for long. And so we learn even as kids, what you put out there is what you're going to receive. So can you kind of tap into that?
Yes. Thank you so much for bringing that up. I think because there's an expectation that when individuals go to counseling, that they're going to be fixed overnight, like a counselor is a genie, if you will, and we could just magically fix all your problems overnight. That's not the case. Something that I want to kind of bring up to speak to that as well is the fact that when you go to counseling, now, as you are getting your mind right to prepare for counseling, I want you to think about this. If you're considering counseling, or you may be even in counseling right now, individuals would just say, well, I'll just go to any counselor and, they can fix me. That is not the case, because remember, we're not fixers. The thing is this, what you want to do is first ask yourself and allow yourself to be honest with yourself. What is it that I'm currently struggling with? Is it depression? Is it grief? Are you having marital issues? Are you having relational issues with getting along with others on your job, in your family? Maybe there's family situations that's going on. So first, identify what the issue is that you're currently wrestling with. Then go, and when you go on your search for a counselor, search for one that specializes in that issue. Okay. One of the things that I love to do, and I get this from my husband, once he come on with Lady She, you all will understand, is using an analogy to try to make it plain and make you all understand. So God forbid individuals, when they are having chest pain, yes, you may rush to the emergency room, but what the emergency room doctor is going to tell you is you need to see your primary care provider so they can refer you to a cardiologist.
Hello.
So with this right here, you don't want, I would suggest, so let me say that, is to look for someone who specializes in what it is that you are wrestling with or that you have an issue with. That's that. And some of you all may say, well, ShanTrail, well, how do you look? Like, what do you do? How do you find? You can always go to Google, and search for a a counselor in your area, because that's one thing about licensed counselors. We cannot see everyone across the United States or around the world. You have to be licensed in that state. So I'm currently licensed in the great state of Texas. I see individuals in Texas. Okay. Now, going back to my point of what I was saying is that you can Google for a therapist in your area. I would suggest, and that's if you feel comfortable, ask questions. Because guess what? When we want that nice car, keep telling you, I use analogies. We are going to do the research. We want to know if that joker's been in hail damage, flood damage. We went to the fact check it, all of that. We've done that. So why not have that same energy, as Lady She said, when it comes to your mental health?
Absolutely.
So ask around, ask people, because guess what? Those don't allow talking about mental health to be taboo. Ask the question. Hey, do you, if you don't mind me asking, do you have a counselor? If you do, what does your counselor specialize in and how are they? How is your counseling going? So those are just some of the suggestions that I would recommend when it comes to your search and finding a therapist.
Love that. And that, you know what I love? It absolutely makes sense. Like, it's not a whole mysterious situation. Like, it just absolutely makes sense. So now, what about the people, you know, they'll say something like, you know, well, what am I going to counsel for? I got my mother, I got my father, I got my friends, I got this, you know, what do you say to stuff like that? Because I feel, and please tap into, I feel that sometimes we know we need help, but we'll even use that as like a scapegoat. You know, so we don't get the help, because a lot of times some of us don't want our lives to be imploded. We'd just rather just keep kind of coasting along, and whoever deals with me as I am. Maybe I'll change a little bit here, but I definitely ain't changing that. You know, so, you know, what do you say to that?
What I would say, and I promise you, I'm not trying to be smart or offensive when I say this, but how has that been working out for you?
Hello.
Is the question that I would ask. How has that been working out for you? And do you feel that it helped you? Now, let me say this. If you are an individual who is blessed enough to have family and friends that you can talk to about the situations that you are going through in your life, that's amazing. You know, count it all joy, as they say. However, sometimes if we be honest with ourselves, and this is for individuals to examine themselves, as you said, Lady She, we could use that as a crutch. So again, I'm going to use another analogy. If you are bleeding out right now, and I'm talking about life and death bleeding, would you go to a doctor or would you go to your family and your friends to stop the bleeding? So think about it like that. And yes, like I'm really, you know, direct, but I want people to understand and get this. So are you going to go to that family member? However, if that family member is a nurse, you know, different things like that, I get that. But this is one thing as licensed professionals. We are not supposed to counsel our family and friends, okay? Right. That's something we are not allowed to do. So please don't think, well, my cousin's a therapist, or my brother's a therapist, or my sister's a therapist. We are not supposed to be giving counseling to those who we have relationship with, because that is considered, from an ethical standpoint, as a licensed professional, having a dual relationship, and you're not supposed to do that. Right. So with that, this is something else that I would like to add, is keep in mind that as licensed professionals, we have went to school, as Lady She said, to get the schooling. We have deeper level of training and certification. So if it's something that's really serious that you are dealing with, that you have been wrestling with, say for instance, trauma, something that's trauma related, sexual abuse, those things are some deep-seated things that need professionals to help walk along with you, because we were trained on how to walk along with you and bring you back to a safe space. Everyone is not trained in that. So that's something that I would suggest to keep in mind as well.
I love that. And you know, I love that you keep saying walk along with you, because I think that part of that part of anything in life is so significant to your growth, to you, maybe, having that deliverance, or to you getting to that next step or that next level in your life or in the next chapter for you. So, thank you so much for making that clear, that we walk with you. The Kings will walk with you through this journey if you desire to heal, if you desire to get to the next space. So thank you so much for that. All right. So now, they ask, a lot of times we see, well, let me say, I don't want to call it trendy, but it almost seems trendy, because I feel like even like pastors, like known pastors, are becoming this particular title. So I definitely would love for you to tap into the difference between counselors and life coaches. What is the difference?
So from what I have been told, because I did kind of do some research on becoming a life coach before becoming a licensed counselor. One thing that I have learned in research, because I'm not a life coach, is that what a life coach will do is help you reach a specific goal in your life. Okay. Now I can highly speak to counselors. Counselors are held by legal and ethical standards that we must follow. Those standards and rules and regulations are created to protect the public. For example, and this kind of ties into speaking to family and friends, when it comes to HIPAA, a lot of people are aware of HIPAA. And so HIPAA, what that, as a licensed professional, we are bound by that. That means that we cannot share anything that you say with anyone unless we have your permission, written consent. And even when we share, it has to be minimal with your consent to do what needs to be done, what is requested for. So that's one of the big things. Of course, we have, again, in-depth training. You have some counselors that are certified in trauma, things such as EMDR, which is a deep level of assisting someone with trauma. So again, I would say to gauge, where you are and your needs to determine whether you want to just reach a specific goal. Maybe it's, I want to get promoted on my job, or I want to learn how to communicate better with people. Okay. However, I will kind of put it like this, and I'm not trying to diminish any life coaches. So anyone that's listening, please don't take it as such. But you have certain levels to this thing. Okay. You have your family and your friends, what I'm saying, that you can talk to, that we were speaking of. You have your pastors and your life coaches. Then you have your counselors. Okay. We can go deep in the mud with you. We know interventions. We know different processes and things we can recognize. And the other thing is we can diagnose if it needs to be a diagnosis. So that's something to keep in mind as well. If it's something that's really serious, and my husband and I have had conversation with pastors in our local communities. And I know two that I can recall in general, that they say, yes, I will do pastoral care counseling, because that's what it's called, pastoral care counseling. However, if it's something that I feel that's beyond that this individual need more help than what I provide, I will pray with them and refer them to a professional.
Gotcha.
So thank you for all those pastors who do that, because as people say, there could be a bleeding on the people. There could be something that an individual is going through themselves. And that's something that we're taught as licensed professional. We don't bring our personal into the professional. We don't do that. So keep that in mind when it comes to your issue that you are looking to seek counseling for.
One of the things I want to bring light to that you made clear was, as a counselor, ethically, you should not be counseling, your family or, those close to you or whatever. So what about, or let me ask you this, have you ever experienced where family was trying to kind of force you to do it, and you've connected them to another counselor for what you felt they needed and they got upset?
We've never actually, when I say we, I'm speaking about me and my husband. Sorry. It's a habit since we're both licensed professionals, but we've never actually had that issue. The blessing in our family is that I can think of off the top of my head, close family. It's probably like we have 4 counselors. I have 4 counselors in my family. And I don't mean just my immediate family, my husband, my kids, and my children, but I'm talking about like uncle, first cousin. So it's 4 of us that are counselors. And one of the things that I could say for myself is I'm quick to say, oh no, it's part of boundary setting, because I do not want to lose my license that I worked so hard for and all the training in school to counsel a family member. It's not worth it. So I am quick to refer, just like I was saying with the pastors. Hey, if you don't mind me asking, and this is as a family member, if you want to share with me, what is your issue? And I can help refer you to someone, but it is your choice. I'm not telling you have to see them, but it is your choice of who you choose. And I'm going to provide about 3 or 4 referrals if I can for their area, but I will not see.
Love that. Love that. So you have counselors in your family. So what made you become a counselor?
Honestly, I'm going to be so honest when I say this. It was definitely a God thing. It was definitely God. And the reason why I say that, because at the time, I was very content with my life, having served in the military, and my husband having retired from the military, and the travels of being in the military. My children, we were finally settled in one place. Everything was going good. I had my job working with veterans who I love as a veteran myself. And it was like, okay, it's time for you to leave this job. And I didn't want to leave the job because I love the veterans. I love my staff and my coworkers and things. And what ended up happening was, long story short, is that I believe God told me to leave, but I was being disobedient. And so the job was a lot to where it started affecting my health. And it was actually one of my employees, one of my staff, who came in, and she recognized, she said, Miss ShanTrail, what are you going to do? And I was like, so I told my husband, baby, I think I'm going to have to quit this job. I love it, but I was torn. And he was like, okay, well, babe, what are you going to do? What do you desire to do? And not meaning job wise, I'm just a doer. I like to be busy helping people. And I said, I'm always helping people. I think I'll just go to school for counseling. And he was like, for real? And I said, yeah. He said, okay. And so went along this journey, went to school, an amazing university, shout out to University Mary Hardin Baylor, which is a private Christian school in Belton, Texas. Amazing staff and professionals. And although I was like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I could do this. They were so supportive and amazing. And so now that I'm in it, I feel that this is what God created and called me to do, was to help people at a different level. So it's definitely a God thing. Nothing that I chose. I didn't want to go back to school. I was good with my bachelor's degree.
That's right. Wow.
Yeah, definitely a God thing.
It's you and your husband. You hear different stories. Sometimes you hear it's good. Sometimes you hear it's not so good. How is that working with your love to do what you love?
I'm going to be honest with you. It's amazing. And the reason why I say this is because I feel we were equipped for this. So here we go, being married. It'll be 25 years this year. And we went from serving in the United States Army together, deploying together, building a family together. We've had businesses before our current practice. We actually have 2 now, but businesses before that. And so it just went from serving in the United States Army, going through what we went through, all the things in life to bring us to this point. And so we are partners in this together. And I love even walking this journey with my husband, because he can understand, things, because we are in the same profession. So honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way, but to walk with him on this journey to helping others becoming a better version of themselves and those who desire.
What is your target audience, or what is your how can I explain? What subjects do you deal with the most when it comes to counseling as a couple, as a unit?
For us, actually, our specialty, I'm thinking maybe that's what you was thinking about, but our specialty as therapists is dealing with relational issues.
Okay.
So we like to deal with relational issues. And so what that means is, of course, marriage. For those who desire to be married and they want to go through premarital counseling, there are a lot of people that are reaching out, which I think that is an amazing investment.
Yes.
Into your marriage is the premarital counseling, and not rushing it, but taking the time to actually get to know the person that you're going to say I do to at a deeper level. We do family. We specialize in family. So anything relational, it could be an individual. They're having relational issues with their family. They're having issues with the person that they're dating. Maybe it's their coworkers, people in their church, because it's a thing.
Yes.
And then all the way up to those who are married, those who are in anything relationship. That is what our specialty is, because we have a lot of people say, okay, well, you two are married. What we ultimately love is when my husband and myself are both in session with the couple.
Okay.
Both in session, because sometimes what husbands and wives may think is that the therapist is going to side with one or the other. That's not what therapy is about. That's not, a professional, that's not the approach that we are supposed to take. Okay. And so what happens when my husband and I are both in therapy with a husband and wife, then the client can feel like it brings balance to the session, and that, okay, so here's a man who can understand, or a husband who can understand a husband's perspective. Here's a wife that can understand a wife. And we work together perfectly as a team, as husband and wife. So yeah, we specialize in anything relational.
Loved it. So do you feel that that area, it almost feels like, of course, there has to be a specialty because of your journey, as in, going through what you've gone through, both of you having prior relationships, the age difference, having children involved early on, growing through being parents, going through a situation where you had to realize you were a little stubborn, so you had to change, and him realizes he had to still support you regardless. Do you feel that you kind of was already equipped, connected to your journey, and then now you just have the education behind it?
That's a good question. To be honest, we didn't know what we call it in the counseling world is our niche. To know what our niche is, our specialty. We didn't know for a while what it was. We just went to school to be marriage and family therapist. And then it just kind of came to us, I guess, because we were already in so many various roles, and held so many various titles. And so I would have to say probably in the last year is when we really kind of honed in on what our specialty is, So yeah, I off the bat, I'm not even gonna say, oh yeah, we were built for this. We knew this.
She's like, no, this took effort and work. Okay. And obedience. I got you. Okay. So have you ever had a time, or let me ask you this, just in a time that you guys have been doing this together, can you say which party is usually the one that's most resistant? Or is it usually like every situation is different?
Every situation is actually different. It depends on the individual and what they're wrestling with, what they're, battling or having troubles with. So yeah, everyone is definitely different. And so that's the thing that we do is we handle by case basis. Because when it comes to counseling, it's not, in my opinion, from what I've seen from my experience, just across the board thing. Oh, this is what they're dealing with depression. So we're going to do A, B, C, D, and E.
Not cookie cut.
Right. It's not clean and cut because there are so many factors that come to play. What is the person's environment like? How was they raised? What, is their current state? What is their current job? It's just so many factors that as a professional, you have to take into consideration as you listen to the client. That's one thing that I think is amazing that, we learned in training and we see is that the therapist shouldn't be doing more talking than the client. Well, when you are in session. And so we learn from the client. Okay. And we can recognize, because we're trained as licensed professionals, the different factors. And then that will help us that would help us to help you as you walk along your journey.
Growing up in the era of, what goes on in my house stays in my house, and you going to counsel, you crazy, what they call you cuckoo and all other stuff and whatever, what is that like, understanding those thoughts have to be no more? Or, we have to move on, or understanding that being a counselor, you realize some of that residue is in some of your clients, so how do you kind of deal with that?
We assist the client in helping to unlearn some of the behaviors that, all of us have grew up in a way or in certain type of cultures or environments that we thought to be, that is the end all be all. But as you get on your own, as you are an adult, and things of that nature, what we as professionals do is we can assist the client in unlearning some behaviors that could be potentially toxic to the client, that the client, not us, but the client comes into the realization that, you know what, me saying what goes on in this house stays in this house is not, it actually did more harm.
Damage, yes.
Than good. You know what I'm saying? And so about that, well, I'm not going to counseling because I am crazy. That, in my opinion, is a myth as well. That's just something that maybe a lot of people heard growing up, but it's absolutely a myth. I was having a conversation with a young lady. She's a Christian. She's a woman of God. And this is not in the counseling room. We do not speak. I do not speak about anything that happens in the counseling room. So this is a friend. And we were just having conversation. And one of the things that she was sharing is that as she was listening to a sermon, the pastor said that there is nothing wrong with counselors. And just because you go to a counselor do not mean that you are crazy, because God was known as the wonderful counselor. So why is there got to be something wrong with you when you go to see a counselor? And if you believe in God, she began to say, even the word of God says that God is a wonderful counselor. Ooh, I was like, wow. We go to God for help. We pray to God. And by the way, I am a Christian counselor, so I'm speaking from that. We go to God as Christians. We pray to God. We ask God for help. So why wouldn't you be willing, for those of you who are feeling resistance right now, why wouldn't you be willing to go to a counselor that God has placed in that position to help you along your journey?
Counseling is important because some of you have problems and some of you have issues. So there's a difference. And I was like, oh, I felt that. Like, yeah, you got issues. You need to go speak to a professional, especially one who hears from God, who has a discernment and the education behind it. Yes, your pastors, can get you to a certain space, but sometimes even a personal relationship will have you be resistant or have you feel like they don't know, all they know is churchy stuff, or all they know is the Bible. So all they're going to do is just apply the word. But sometimes you need that professional side, to help you and to break down maybe, how you are, your character or your personality, or maybe this is how you respond to certain things because of how you were raised and things of that nature. So, thank you so much for sharing, that. I was going to ask you something that just slipped my mind when I said that.
Are you thinking about it? Can I bring up one thing that I failed to mention earlier? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
So when you all are looking for a therapist, some other factors that you may want to consider is, let me say this. A lot of therapists allow a free 15-minute consultation.
Okay.
What this consultation is for both of you, the client and the therapist, to try to see if you two are a good fit, because that's very important when it comes to finding a therapist, that you two are a good fit. Now, other things, feel free during that time. So let me kind of lay out how I do it when it comes to my 15-minute consultation with potential clients. Is I call them over the telephone, make sure and verify that it's them, let them know who I am. And how I run my consultation is I do a short introduction of myself. I want to share a little bit about myself. Not that it's about me, but just so they would know. And then I ask specific questions. And then I allow the potential client to ask me questions.
Right.
And so know that for those of you who are searching for a counselor or a therapist, it is okay to ask questions.
Right.
It is okay. Some of the common questions that I get asked is this. Are you a Christian counselor? That's probably the most popular that I've received. Are you a Christian counselor? And I say, yes, I am a Christian counselor. I'm, raised up in the church, Christian. And then I say the phrase that we used to say in the church all the time, baptized, Holy Ghost filled, with something like that. I forget it now. But anyway, yeah, just to let them know. And then one of the second top questions that I always get is, do you accept insurance? So that's a factor for you all to consider as well. If you're working and you have insurance on your job, you can use that insurance to pay for counseling, and you may just have to pay a copay, just like you do when you go to any other specialist. Right. But then let me explain what I explain to my potential clients. We at Ear to Hear Counseling, myself and my husband, Ear to Hear Consulting and Counseling, we do not accept insurance. So you have some therapists that do, and you have some therapists that don't. We are private pay only. And so the third top question that we always get is, well, why don't you guys accept insurance? And we don't mind explaining. The reason why we don't accept insurance is because, number one, and you can Google this, go to Google and Google this to verify. I'm telling you, Google it, boy, Google tell you some things, may not tell you everything. However, Google it. Insurance companies do not cover marriage counseling. They do not. And so a lot of people do not know that. Well, I was told, Google it. Insurance companies do not cover marriage counseling. So that's one thing why we don't accept it. Number two, and I'm speaking for myself, not myself and my husband, but ShanTrail King, for myself is, a lot of times when it comes to insurances, in order for a therapist to get paid through your insurance company with your job, is they have to diagnose you. And so for me, I believe, ShanTrail King, this is just me, don't beat me up. Everybody have their own way of doing things, but I don't believe that every client is a diagnosis. So I'm not going to diagnose you or try to find a diagnosis to get paid from an insurance company. I want to be able to work with you with the training and, levels of certification, everything that I have, without having to go through an insurance company. So we are private pay only, and we let people know. So I bring all that up to say this, Phil, before you schedule the consultation with your counselor, write down the questions that you have. Right. This is not the time for you to, say, I'm going through this, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. No. Save that for session.
Yes.
This is I'm going to say it like this, dating experience, if you will. Okay. No romance involved. No romance involved. Professionally, okay? Where you get to know each other to say, are we a good fit or not? Because from therapist point of view, and I'm not speaking on behalf of all therapists, but I'll say from my point of view, what I would do is, if you're not a good fit or I'm not your specialty, I will try my best to provide 2 or 3 referrals in the area, in the community, in the state of Texas for you to, go to if I have some for your area. So.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was very important, actually, because I feel like that's sometimes where people have that thing of, I tried counseling, it don't work because maybe you didn't ask the right questions, you know, in reference to the assessment, the consultation, you know, with that particular person. And then you have to be real. These are human beings. Like
Right.
you are under the guidelines of God and your namesake. And these are the things that are important to you. Not everyone possesses that. You can pass a test or you can take classes or, you know, get your degree in certain things, but that has nothing to do with ethics. That has nothing to do with, you know, you having a personality or enough respect for a person to say, okay, I can't really help you. Some people just take your money. Mm-hmm. So, you know, thank you so much, you know, for saying that because, and I honestly didn't realize that. But now it's making sense of some of the people that I referred to. I didn't realize that they didn't take insurance, and it was probably because they were a marriage counselor. So thank you for sharing that as well. You know what I find to be interesting that it's not covered? And I feel like it's just like the temperature of this world right now. I just feel like if you don't have God, you really need to get to know him right now because there's so much against us right now. And even what you're saying that the divorce rate is so high. So why wouldn't that be covered if everything else is covered? Do you understand what I'm saying? Even with like, you know, certain things with medication, not everybody wants to be on drugs all their life. So they would rather go the holistic route. Holistic, you know, techniques are not covered on insurance. Why is that? So, you know, we have to sometimes really do our homework when it comes to certain things and do our due diligence to say, I'm worth spending this money. You understand what I'm saying? I'm worth, let me just not eat out this week. If it's a money thing, let me, you know, make the food at home, make me some PB&J because I care about my marriage. So we need to figure this thing out to get this money paid for us to be doing these sessions. But even little things like that are big things because that alone will just have me like, oh, well, they don't cover it. Oh, well. And then now you're not getting the counseling you need. And now you find yourself getting a divorce when you could have gotten the help that you needed. So, you know, I guess it's an individual thing where you will have to feel that your marriage is important enough to make an effort, you know, to put the work in.
It's definitely an investment. I would say that for the betterment of yourself. And again, let's compare it to the physical. And, you know, I know y'all like, why is this lady continue to compare it to the physical? Before coming into mental health, I was in direct patient care for years. So that's kind of like second nature to me. But think about an individual who you have that gym membership and you go, you know, all the time, or maybe you decided that you want to eat better. So you're working on your physical, you're eating better because new year, new me, right? That's what everyone says, the cliche or whatever. So how do you budget in the investment to have a better mental health is the question. But and a lot of times, because talking about mental health in our age group and older is somewhat cliche, you speak to the younger generation, they're like, oh, it's like I have my mental health provider on speed dial. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I am not missing my appointments. I'm going once a week because they get and understand that it is something that's going to benefit them and them being a better version of themselves. Same thing like you were mentioning when it comes to marriage. It will take both the husband and the wife to have the desire to say, you know what? I am not giving up on this marriage. I am not giving up on you. I'm not giving up on me. Let's go into this thing wholeheartedly, because both the husband and the wife, when you come into the counseling room, you have to be invested. Both of you have to want that. So that's very valuable and something to consider and think about. You're talking about becoming a better you, being on your own individual journey. If you would allow me, and again, this is not about me, we're talking about mental health, but to use it as an example in this forum, there was, after I hit 40 years old, I don't know what it was, but after I hit 40, I remember in my bedroom, me and my husband's bedroom, I was like, baby, I need to talk to you. And he was like, well, what's up? What's going on? And I was like, I'm going to start going to see a counselor.
All right.
I just told him straight up. I was like, I'm going to go start to see a counselor. And he's like, okay, is everything okay? I said, I need to work on me. I want to be a better version of myself. And what I liked about my husband, and I told him this, I said, so if I start tripping, I'm being honest, very transparent right now. If I start tripping, I'm emotional, I have my ups and downs or whatever, just know that it's nothing personal towards you, that I'm working on me.
Yeah,
and what I love about that, and this would be probably very important to some as well, is that my husband supported me through the process of me desiring to be a better version of myself. I love that. I love that. So hopefully that will speak to those of you who are watching and listening.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That was so good. And listen, I can relate. I'm telling you, my first podcast, I flat out said to the person, I said, I found real self-love at 40. Period. Yeah. Real self-love. You know, we can have that. I don't want to call it, I don't want to call it fake. I don't want to call it, what do you call? I don't even know what word to say, but a form. You know, we can have like a form of self-love. You know what I'm saying? But real self-love was in my 40s. And that's why I'm grateful to be at the age I am. I embrace it. You know, I embrace that I'm still learning me, that I'm different from yesterday. So, you know, when it comes to counseling, you know, it has to be personal. It has to be something where, you know, I know there's more, I'm missing something. I'm feeling a nudge. I'm feeling a little stagnated. I mean, life is really good for me. God, thank you. You know, I'm content and everything's beautiful. And I love my husband. My kids are doing good. You know, respect. The whole house is good in reference to, you know, the respect and everything, doing what they need to do. But there's something else with me that I need to see about. And I'm excited about it, you know? But hubby, I might start going through some changes that I'm not used to because it's a daily work. So, you know, thank you so much for sharing that. That was awesome.
You are welcome.
You mentioned that you were in Texas, and I had mentioned early on that, you know, in reference to the states and, you know, different laws and stuff like that. You've been in Texas most of your life, correct?
No, actually I'm from Oklahoma. What brought me to Texas was retiring out in the military. So so I would say a total of maybe 15 years.
When it comes to who you were in Oklahoma, do you feel like that's somewhere you could visit and pour into them? Like maybe like do like some kind of conferences and things like that. And, you know, just to give people your story, to say like, you know, I grew up here, I went through some things, but, you know, counseling and me growing as a counselor is what got me to this place. You know, I would love to train you guys or introduce you to the life of having counseling. Or do you understand? Does that make any sense? I might not be saying it correctly.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm gonna answer like this. If it be God's will, I would love for me and my husband to go wherever around the world. To speak about, you know, counseling and how important it is, how beneficial it is, you know, not, you know, just in Oklahoma or here in Texas, but wherever God would take us, you know, to really talk about mental health. And if I can kind of caveat here for just a second, is that there are so many people who are suffering in silence.
Yes.
There's so many people who are suffering in silence, and so many people that are asking for help in the best way that they know how. But there are a lot of people who don't know how to recognize it, or because like you were mentioning earlier in the show, is how, you know, everybody's kind of going through their own thing. So we're not as in tuned with each other as maybe we were when we were children, and, you know, things like that, to say, are you okay? Let's sit down and talk and things like that. So wherever God would take us to really speak on mental health as, you know, licensed professionals, I'm willing to go.
Love that. And you guys also do virtual, correct? So that takes you all over the world as well. You don't have to physically be there. So I think that's a plus for sure.
Yes. Now we do virtual, but when it comes to actual counseling, only in the state of Texas, because that's only where we're licensed at. And then also let me throw this out there, because I didn't say in the beginning, we kind of jumped in, which this is amazing, you know, first show on mental health matters, but we are both licensed professional counselor associates who are under the supervision of Unica Willis. She is our supervisor. She's a licensed professional supervisor here in the state of Texas. And so with that being said, we do have our private practice where we have the ability, because, you know, everyone say Texas. I had a guy from another country share this with me. He said, Texas is bigger than most countries. So virtually, we are able to see individuals, which a lot of people love virtual. I'm not going to lie, as a counselor, I was a little opposed to it in the beginning because I love being in the counseling room. However, seeing how clients open up because they're in their own environment, they open up because they feel comfortable. So virtual has been a blessing, and we've been able to see people all across the state of Texas.
Love it.
So I'm not opposed to it anymore.
All right. Love to hear that. That's awesome. Go ahead, Texas. All right. So we're gonna wrap it up. Is there anything you would like to leave the people with before you tell them how they can find you and, you know?
I would just say, if you have been battling with whether or not you want to start counseling, or if you started and you stopped, let me speak to that real quick. If you started and you stopped, that therapist may not have been a great fit for you, nothing against the therapist, or maybe you thought you were ready and you wasn't. Continue to find one that would be a good fit for you, just like you would search for that new car that's perfect. Okay, you put it the same energy as Lady She said. So keep that in mind. But if you desire to be a better version of yourself, I would encourage you to invest in yourself. Invest in yourself to becoming a better you. We do not have to stick in the cliches of the environments that we heard in the environments growing up. So step out and get the help that you need. And please, please, please do not sit and suffer in silence, because the help is out there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Just really quick before we close out, please share the name of the counseling, your counseling business, and why is it that name? Why did you guys pick that name?
Ear to Hear Consulting and Counseling, PLLC, is the name of our practice. And it is actually scriptural, where the word of God said, let you be that ear to hear. So that's kind of like our little motto, let us be your ear to hear. So it is scripturally based. And just, you know, just about to close up. For Ear to Hear, if you wanted to reach out to us and you're in the state of Texas, you would like counseling, go to our website, eartohearcounseling.com. Even if you're outside the state and you just want to go visit our website, go to eartohearcounseling.com. Our business phone number is 254-450-2950. And again, myself and my husband are the owners, licensed professional counselor associates under Unica Willis, who is our supervisor. Let us be your ear to hear.
Let them be your ear to hear. I'm excited for you people in Texas that y'all got Miss ShanTrail and Mr. Kenya King at your hands. Okay, listen, please utilize the Kings, because I'm telling you now, this is my second time, you know, speaking with ShanTrail, but our first encounter with her and her husband was so magnetic. It was so effortless. It was such a freedom in the conversation. I feel like I've known them for years and I have not. And like she said, you know, you don't have to go by me, because I can keep going on and on about people that I like. But, you know, visit their website, you know, see what they're about. As the young people say, what they say now, because I need receipts, you know, let the website show you their receipts. And, you know, if you felt anything, a nudge in your spirit about, you know, seeking counseling, please do so. You know, please do so. There's nothing wrong with, you know, trying to find yourself, you know, find more about yourself so you can be a better version of yourself. So you can be a better version to everyone around you, you know, in your marriage and a relationship with your children, whatever the case may be. But, you know, take the time out to give counseling a chance and, you know, see where you go from there.
Yes. And I just want to thank you, if I can, Lady She, for having me on your podcast. I look forward to more mental health matter topics with you and going deep with you so we can kind of work together to pull back the onion layers so individuals can kind of see, oh, wow, I'm in this. This may be a reason to go and get help. So thank you so much. I greatly appreciate you all the way in New York.
Yes, yes, yes. It's a New York, Texas connection. Okay, we love to see it. Once again, thank you so much for coming on. Send my regards to Mr. Kenya. And like you said, just tapping back in, mental health matters. We really are taking this thing and we're going full-fledged with it. Like she said, we're going to go deep, and you got to go deep. You got to go deep to get to the fruit, to the root of what's going on. So, I'm excited and I'm grateful that, God has put us together, this divine connection, and, just continue to do your work. And, of course, I'm praying for you. I'm excited for you guys, and, let's make this thing happen.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So, everyone, make sure you subscribe to How Michael Lady She podcast. Make sure you follow me. Oh, you can also give them your social media information as well, ShanTrail.
Yes. So Ear to Hear Counseling we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, we are on LinkedIn, and we are also on YouTube. So just search Ear to Hear Counseling, or if you just simply go to our website, scroll to the bottom, you'll see all our links there on our page.
Love it, love it, love it. Listen, guys, make sure you visit the website and get all in a business and see what's what and get the help that you need, or, just see what it's about. See what it's about. With the days of before are over with. We're in the present. First of all, let's say this: you've made it through, or you're still making it through a pandemic. So it will behoove you, to get the help that you need, or to have to talk to someone. Free yourself a little bit. Of some of the things you even went through connected to the pandemic. We are rooting for you, and we're excited for you. So we will see you next time.